So why weren't the NAB's undertakings sufficient, and are the days of banks buying growth over? I spoke to the ACCC's Deputy Chairman, Peter Kell, who took over the responsibility for the decision after the Chairman, Graham Samuel, recused himself from the process. Well, Peter Kell, are you guys just opposed to any of the four banks getting bigger now because a mistake was made in allowing Commonwealth Bank to buy Bank West and Westpac to buy St George, or is there something specific here?
Look, I think it's important to understand that our assessment of any merger matter turns on the particular facts of the case. It's not a question of drawing a line in the sand. Of course, the ACCC is very much interested in competition in the finance sector. It's an area of strong concern to the wider community, but we assess each matter on its merits, and our decision here was based on the competition impact in the retail investment platform market.
Well, in fact, you could argue that it's pro-competitive because it makes the big four banks a bit more even. As people have been saying, it's become two pillars and two stumps following the takeovers of Bank West and St George. This would perhaps even it up a bit.
Look, in the market that we had the strongest competition concerns, the retail investment platforms, that's already a very concentrated market. You've got three large players, and we saw ACCC emerging as a vigorous and effective competitor. The merger would have taken them out of the picture. The merger would have removed that competitive tension that they were introducing.
But when Westpac took over St George, or applied to take over St George, the ACCC had a very close look at platforms at the time because of St George's Asgard platform, and concluded that there were no problems, and you waved it through on that basis as well as the other banking basis. So what's changed?
I don't want to try and undertake some very detailed comparison of the two matters. There are different circumstances when you look at NAB and ACCC. I will, however, make one point around that to show how the market has changed. The separately managed accounts were regarded as a very significant potential competitive force when it came to retail investment platforms. At the time we looked at, the ACCC looked at Westpac, the Westpac St George merger. It's clear now that they haven't emerged as the sort of significant competitive rival to platforms that people imagined they might. So that's just one example of the way in which the market has changed and the context in which we made this decision.
Well, if the problem is the investment platform, as you say, the North platform that ACCC owns, why doesn't the undertaking to divest that deal with the problem?
The undertaking goes to the divestment of the platform itself, but you have to realise that platforms, to be successful, have to be supported by an effective range of products that are offered through those platforms, and also, crucially, by a strong distribution network. ACCC has a strong distribution network of aligned and non-aligned planners, but none of that was to be divested. ACCC has a range of products that are provided through the North platform. Ultimately, they weren't to be divested. ACCC has the brand name, the profile, and it had also undertaken significant investment already in the platform. So taking them out of the picture was going to result in a significant lessening of competition. We didn't believe the undertakings would set up IOOF with significant competitive force to remedy that situation.
So you're saying that IOOF is not a strong enough buyer of the platform?
Ultimately, there were too many questions around the ability of IOOF to offer competition to a merged NAB ACCC and to the other major players in this market.
So what if the sale to IOOF included some of the stuff that you say would boost their competitive power?
Look, we don't want to engage in speculation on what if the undertakings had included X, Y or Z. The fact is they didn't include distribution assets, they didn't include the North products. They were complex undertakings that relied on behavioural obligations stretching over several years, which increases the complexity and the risk. And as a result, all those things put together meant that we didn't have confidence that they would address our competition concerns.
I mean, it seems to me you have a problem here. It's taken a long time to deal with this issue with ACCC and NAB. I mean, I think it's like almost a year since AMP first proposed the takeover of ACCC. So they've been in limbo for that time. This was an opportunity to create a new competitor in IOOF with a quite a strong platform. Well, you've not taken the opportunity to make a competitor out of IOOF, and in the meantime, ACCC has been weakened.
It's not the ACCC's role to make a competitor out of someone. We have to look at the impact on competition in this key market, and what we found was that taking ACCC out was going to have a significant detrimental impact on competition. In terms of the length of time taken, it's worth clarifying that we made our decision in April to oppose the NAB-ACCC deal. We were approached soon after by the parties around the issue of whether some undertakings could address our concerns. We have dealt with that in as timely a manner as possible. We went out to the market in early August, and we've made a decision in just about a month, having got that feedback and undertaken that process.
And you're okay, it seems, with AMP taking over ACCC, is that correct?
As our April decision indicated, we don't have the same competition concerns about AMP because they don't have the same type of platform presence that both NAB and ACCC have.
So are you, in fact, actively in favour of AMP taking over ACCC to create a fifth force in financial services?
We certainly tested that question in our early consultation around this matter to give us a sense of the competition impact. But ultimately, whether AMP wants to take some further steps now is entirely up to them.
Yeah, well, their bid was obviously rejected as being too low, and the higher NAB offer was accepted. I mean, how important in this process is the fact that there have been two inquiries into financial services going on at the same time, the Cooper Review and the Ripoll Review in Parliament, and the conclusions that they've reached about what the shape of financial services should be. Did you take any or much notice of that?
Look, that's a good question, and those sorts of inquiries and possible policy changes are, of course, one of the many things we take into account when we're looking at the effects on competition of a merger like this. However, our decision was that the impact of those inquiries and how they actually translate into the business models going forward, financial services marketplace, was too uncertain to place heavy reliance on the way that they may impact the market. We certainly asked the market participants, however, what impact they would have on distribution networks, but most people said that it was a little too early to give a definitive answer to that.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Alan.